Good morning, everyone, and I thank you so much for joining me on this panel discussion. My name is John Armstrong, and I will be doing a panel discussion on mental health crisis in the local churches and community. Again, we have our panelists on, and I would like you to formally introduce yourself, if possible. If you can introduce yourself by name for this panel discussion.
My name is John. I'm sorry. Yes, your name I'm reading.
Yes, sir.
Just call me Q.
Yes, sir.
Do I need to tell you my whole name?
No, sir. Just whatever name you choose to call you, sir, that's perfectly fine.
You can call me either Q or either Pastor, either one.
I prefer to call you Pastor.
Pastor is my last name. That's fine.
Q Pastor. Gotcha, sir. Next person, please. Do we have the other person available?
How you doing? Good morning. My name is Elisa Wilson, joining from Louisiana.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wilson. Do we have anyone else that's going to join in?
Good morning. My name is Rico Garvey. I'll be available coming in from the Baton Rouge area.
Yes, sir. And thank you. Thank you for taking my call and joining in on the discussion. Today, when I talk about churches, I primarily focus my attention on attractional churches and missional churches. In the sense of attractional churches are churches that build from the outside in, but then again, missional churches build from inside out. And so, with that being said, using either model, maybe you're aware of, um, we're going to be having this panel discussion. And the first question that I will put to the table, and anyone, please take 3 to 4 minutes if you like, to answer the questions as they're coming up. It's no set order, just anyone when you chime in, and I may have some additional follow-up questions. My first question that I have is, how can the church foster a sense of belonging and community in an era where many individuals feel isolated, especially after the social distancing caused by the pandemic? Please feel free to chime in at your leisure. Or do I need to read the question again? The question on the table is, how can the church foster a sense of belonging and community in an era where many individuals feel isolated, especially after the social distancing caused by the pandemic? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'll chime in since nobody else chimed in. I think leveraging social media, because you can reach thousands remotely, and I think also like having it doesn't even have to be Instagram or Facebook. It could be a Zoom platform for those elders who do not have social media, but just finding a way to reach them remotely from the comfort of their home, their hospital bed, or wherever they are, so that you could administer prayer and establish that community and sense of belonging so they don't feel alone.
Okay, I like that answer.
I think
Anyone
instead
else?
of it, oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No,
Keep
I
going.
was just saying instead of having the expectation that everybody joins online, why not have like a establishment class so everybody knows how to join online? Because a lot of people are not social media savvy. So on a Wednesday night Bible study, hey, I know the holidays are coming up and a lot of people are traveling. So I'm gonna show everybody how to set up this Zoom link or how to join me on Facebook. That way you establish a baseline knowledge base for everybody within the congregation instead of just having an expectation that everybody knows how to join online.
Sure. Anyone that want to comment on what she's saying or comment on the question?
I agree because a couple seconds ago I had an issue trying to figure out how to work the mic. I want to talk on Zoom, so it took me about 3 minutes. I heard the question, I just couldn't figure my way through Zoom, but I think I got it now. But I totally agree with the notion of having a online meeting with the congregation. I think that's a great thing to do, as well as this is that opportunity to get in for your younger generation to talk to the older generation also. So if you can, if in this particular case, I would teach a younger generation and let them guys link up with that older generation or to tie that. This way, both get the opportunity to learn. Because within this particular community, I believe that the younger generation usually start away from the older. But this one opportunity here to tie both generations together, and that'd be via technology.
Okay. My question, I'm gonna follow up with this question. Q, Pastor, would you like to join in on this one?
Sure. I'm gonna speak from experience of this. You and I, we right now are in Zoom, and it's convenient. But my experience with it is it does not foster fellowship. It does not rid whatever that condition you described, people feeling left out or unattached. To the contrary, that's what it creates, is disattachment.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for those answers.
And let me just qualify this, because I've been in church in recent years where we experience analytics with regards to online viewing, as well as Zoom, Teams, Bible study, and we're disconnected, so much so that even people will sign in on Zoom, and those who used to be involved in the Zoom, they're not. They're either like we are right now, faithless, or they are silent. Not all, but for the most part. So I'm an advocate for biblical fellowship, and not the modern hope that we can reach and reconnect. And unless there's an intergenerational ministry, unless there's an interracial ministry, unless there's an cultural ministry, church, whatever you're calling it. I'm not sure what you're calling church, because the church has a definitive role, and we keep trying to expand the church's role into all of these things that were not an Acts chapter 2 design. So all of the modern technology, which I thank God for, it hasn't proven to be better or to be successful as Acts chapter 2 church.
Oh, I don't
Thank you
know,
so
Pastor.
much for that.
I tend to disagree. That's just like saying, I want I would like all my members to continue to ride horseback to church versus driving their car. The car's a form of technology, and you got more members to the church. So I mean, so picking and choosing what part of technology you want to use in order to get members there, I don't think it's fair to the growth of your members as well as yourself, because you can't say, at least in my opinion, that hey, we don't want to use technology in order to gain more members, in order to gain more insight, no matter where the person may be, meet the person where they at. However, we do want you to drive to work, even though you started off on foot and horseback. So you can't pick
I
and choose,
can't.
you can't pick and choose your technology. But it's just my opinion that it limits the scope of the church. I think the church has to grow. In my opinion, you're speaking from experience.
Well, that's why I qualified. That's why I qualified my response, because I not only have visited, I not only have planted, I not only have been a part of. One of the reasons I'm not disconnected is because I've seen it all. I mentioned analytics, and that's not an opinion. That's a fact. And so horse and buggy or roller skate, it doesn't work. And I'm not talking about one missionary or whatever those two different descriptives are. I'm talking about the organized religion. So you call it what you want.
Okay.
I appreciate your opinion, and I'm only offering mine based on what I think I know.
I agree.
Okay.
I have a comment based off of experience, not religious experience and being a pastor, but being in a geographically dispersed environment and having a team of teams that I had to maintain and build. And technology was the only way. And we absolutely made soldiers and leaders not feel isolated, a member of the team, and we still got the mission accomplished. Now, when you're talking about God's mission, I think maybe the topic may be different. I think it's more interpersonal when we're talking about saving somebody's spirit. And from a spiritual aspect, that may require a face-to-face, a hand touch, but I still think like the message can get across. And I still think from experience as an IT professional that technology can bridge the gap across the seas, across the world, or wherever you are to connect with an individual. Now, some connections may be more personal than others, and that's where your experience comes in. But I do think, and I've seen teams of teams be built in a geographically dispersed environment where I had half of my unit up north and the other half down south, and we had to continue the mission. And the mission goals were met, they were articulated clearly, and the team was never disbanded or felt isolated.
My second question. My second question, considering what you said, Ms. Wilson, moving, when you're talking about that, you had small groups. So let me ask this question: what role does small group ministry play in the spiritual growth, and how these are truly supported and transformative in people's lives? In other words, do you find that a small group setting will be more um, um, would it be better for small group opposed to overarching larger churches?
I was a part of a church that had like a young adults group, and then they had the kids ministry, then they had like the couples ministry. And I was a fan of the small groups because it allowed people to connect on a deeper level. Because a lot of times, and I'm just speaking from a church attendee, not a administration piece. Um, I would go and like I would kind of feel overwhelmed in the overall congregation, like, wow, I'm just a number. But then when we broke onto our small groups, I think that's when the true relationships were formed. And the like the mission was clearly articulated. Like I felt more a part of the church in the small group than I did in like just attending church. So I really enjoyed the small groups. And then we ended up like making a roster, and then each couple would host at their house, and we would do like a potluck, and it was great. And that's how friendships are formed. That's how bonds are formed. And that's how you begin to trust people enough to tell them if there is something going on. But if there is no trust and there's no relationship formed, I'm not gonna come to you in my darkest hour. So I think that was a good thing that church did when I was stationed at Fort Stewart.
So what I heard you say that you felt more supportive and transformative in small groups.
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
where the change took place as far as our membership status, how we felt about the church. Just attending the church wasn't enough. The small
Mhm.
groups for us was where the change really happened and the trust was formed.
Okay. Thank you. So, with that question, would anybody else like to, answer to that?
I have experienced small groups, um, establishing them as well as participating in them. Uh, Prior to my establishing them, I learned to establish them from one of the best. He's deceased now, but one of the best leaders I've ever met, church related. Um, a lot of things rolling around my head. Everything that Ms. Wilson said, I could readily embrace on this issue.
Hmm.
But see that but right there? That but says small groups make up larger groups, but there has to be one band with one sound. And so, yes, I will foster relationship in the smaller group, but the message to all groups has to be the same if they are part of the whole. There's a beautiful both Old Testament and New Testament appreciation for that model of the small groups. And I'll just use the New Testament one where Jesus met some fellas, called some fellas, trained some fellas, developed them, and they were not online, they were in person, just so you know. And then he dispatched them to carry that same message. Someone mentioned there ought to be a way where the young and the old can do something. And that's good if it's a family environment.
Hmm.
Young people, and this is out of experience now. Young people like online opportunities. They can spend hours and hours and hours and hours doing it as long as it's something that they want to do. Call them in for what you're talking about. You keep talking about church. They don't want to do church online because they want hands-on interaction. They love their friends.
Is it,
Just like
is
they
it,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry for interrupting, but what I hear you saying is that they spend numerous hours online. However, when you're asking them to spend time online, structured time online, they're not interested. Is that what I'm understanding?
Not necessarily. They don't want. They, they get. Here's the problem. They have to do online for school. They have to do online for games. They have to do online for fun. They have to do online for a lot of things. So you try to bring them centered with what is it you call church? That,
Hmm.
that, that, Hours didn't work. Let me put it that way. Hours didn't work.
Yes,
Concourse
sir.
didn't work. Church Without Walls is still not working. But
Yes, sir.
that's just because I study churches. I
Yes,
study churches because that was my dissertation about how to make sure that churches are healthy. So that's my opinion on that.
Mr. Campbell, have you ever been involved in a small group ministry?
No, I have not. I have not been involved in small group ministry. Uh, I think we've talked about this before. Me and you. I don't even like going to church half the time, Jeff. And you understand that, and the thing about it is that uh, through my experience, I've done my fair share of church going. That each set of church members don't have the individual's best interest at heart, and that's a whole nother conversation. But when it comes down to membership and things of that nature, as what the pastor led to, is that the question is you got to ask yourself the why of how to fix the program, because a lot of times I totally agree. Kids do a lot of things that are online, schooling, etc., etc. But the biggest thing is that there's no. The question is their involvement. Let them help you and build your program versus you, the pastor, lead that process. This way you can understand what really interests those individuals, that group of people. Because I mean, historically, I'm positive that the older generation would like to sit face to face with their pastor.
Okay.
The newer generation, uh, that's like my generation, that may have a lot going on. You need that microwave ready hot right now. I need to be able to log in, get the word, continue to go on because my life is not stopping now.
Okay.
And reason I say it in that manner because of the way how things are given now. So we have to adjust with the times. Older generation, I get it. They're at that point in life where they're going to show up. Younger
Okay.
generation, mid generation, no, that is not going to happen.
Let,
And you got
let
to
me
figure
ask you
out a way
this
to meet it.
question.
I'm
Let me
listening.
ask you this question. This
Hmm.
particular for you, and then I'm gonna get Q Pastor and I'm gonna get Miss Wilson to chime in, but directly for you, how can the church create spaces where people feel comfortable being vulnerable and sharing their struggles, knowing that they will be met with compassion and understanding? So my question to you is how can the church, since you say you don't go often, what can be done to create spaces where people feel comfortable being vulnerable and sharing their struggles, knowing that it will be met with compassion and understanding?
What the church can do is not do everything. That's what the church can do, in my opinion. Because sometimes the pastor want to be, at least in my opinion, they want to be the one to give you the marriage advice. That's a plus. They want to turn around and try to give you emotional counseling. Okay, I get it. Then we get psychological counseling. I get it. But after a while, it gets to a point where it's just too much. So if anything, in my opinion, it need to be like a belly button of anything. At that point, they need to, this is my opinion, the church need to be integrated better with the local, with the more, not even say the local community because they are. It's just the bigger items in the community. There should be a psychiatrist that come once a month that everybody knows. And I don't got to be Sister King's niece, but at least let it be someone in the community that does this. This is their profession, and they
Oh,
understand that the pastor and this individual has this connection. This way they know they can go to the pastor and say, "Hey,
oh, let me follow this question up with you again. What if the
Wait,
pastor,
wait. Can I ask
sure,
him to repeat his third thing?
yes,
He
sir.
said the one they do the weddings, the one they do the.
yeah." I mean, what I'm saying is that when I say that is that me going back in when I used to go to church all the time, the pastor did it all. I mean, he used to church. He comes in. He has the. I'm going to give the ministry for marriage counseling. They want to give the I want to get it for the medical. I want to be, but it gets to a point to where I think the church is overwhelmed with items outside of uh, teaching individuals religion and Bible. I think it gets past that after a while. It gets to the realm of psychiatry and social. I think it began to overstep their. I ain't gonna say overstep their bounds, but you start to go outside that particular expertise, and you try to tie it back to the Bible. Where sometimes it's not a Bible that's needed. You need an actual individual that does that. And in my mind, the pastor, the church should be a belly button to where those people in need can come to and say, do you have a individual or know a individual that we can trust, that you trust, that we can talk to about my medical issue, my heart disease, my son's psychiatry needs, things that my blood pressure. Do you have someone like that? And that's like the biggest issue is that you can't everything you pray. We can pray about it all, and that's a good thing. You pray, you believe, but it gets to a point to where you need solid, educated individuals to take over those tasks, and sometimes it may require the pastor to say, "Hey, brother Garvey, I see that you are having such and such issues. I see that when I see you now that you're limping. I have a medical doctor within our staff to help you out. We could point you in
Yeah.
this direction if you got the. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're doing it now, maybe they're not. But from
Maybe
my
Can I
experience,
jump?
have it.
Can I
may I ask
chime
a
in?
question? May
Can
I
Yes,
I,
ask a question?
can I
yes,
chime in?
Do your do you first Q? I'm gonna come straight to you, but do you think that the pastor is trained to deal with some of the emotional, some of the physical? What if the pastor is not only a pastor, but he is a psychologist, or he is an educator, or he is a medical doctor? Would you still have that same feeling, being that he's the pastor? Um, Secondly,
yes,
okay,
So let me say
yes,
this.
yes. I would still have that feeling. I can
Let
tell
me
you
say
why.
this.
Let Mr. Q go.
There are some pastors who are trained for some things. There are some pastors who are not trained for some things. There are some pastors who are asked to do things that they are incapable of doing. And there are some expectations of pastors that should not be. Now, given that, I'm going to go back to the Bible because that's the only thing I think about. There is no biblical precedent for a one-man ministry. Jesus didn't do it. And he recognized that what needs to be done. This is why I don't like the word church being blamed for society. There is a place in society for church, but church is not the heart. Church is the entity that God placed so that society won't kill itself. Now, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors, surgeons, they all have their place. That's why we should not superimpose over on the church to be all and all to all. And that's what has happened historically is people have expected pastors to do everything.
And you know what? I hate to interrupt you. I'm listening. No, I'm listening.
That's I'd like if Armstrong could arrange, because I don't want to take up his time, could arrange a time where you and I could talk, because you said some things that I think that we could talk about, if that's
what
okay.
what I
So
would do is, after we get through the list of questions, I certainly would then come back in, and I would merge. We would do a personal call outside of the questions, if that's okay with each person on.
okay.
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 See,
So
I think he missed what I think he missed what I was saying. The pastor missed what I was saying.
No. I
Well,
think he understood it. It's just that we have to get through so many more questions,
okay, okay, no
Mr.
problem.
Campbell. And so I don't want to, I didn't want to cut you off because I certainly hear your point. Miss Wilson, let me ask this question. What are some of the practical ways that churches can foster intergenerational relationships and collaboration to deepen spiritual growth in community?
Yes, I was actually gonna go back to that, what you were saying about collaboration. So I'm glad you asked this question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Because I'm driving now, but can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I can certainly hear you. And be safe while you're driving. Please,
Oh
if
yeah.
you
I
have to
mean
pull over.
my camera's off. I'm focused on the road. But
Okay.
I will tell you, one of my best churches, and I haven't seen this replicated, was when I was in Augusta. And we had like in Augusta they're big for like First Fridays, right? First Friday,
Hmm.
everybody go down to the Riverwalk, the community, right? But the church started a thing called First Saturday. And like I want to say throughout the month, the second, third, and fourth Sundays, you got to select what community, like what volunteer organization you wanted to do. So like, do you want to cook for the homeless? Do you want to work in the food bank? Do you want to go to the food, like the clothing shelter? Do you want to go and help, kids that are, displaced or whatever? So it's like 5 different things that you can volunteer for. So throughout the month, you sign up to volunteer. Come first
Hmm.
Saturday, everybody shows up, they meet their group leaders, and you disperse into the community to do God's work. And when I tell you, it was such a rewarding feeling.
Hmm.
It was so many young kids that did it, that participated, because it was rewarding and it was God's work, but it wasn't like overly whelmingly like we got together, we met, we prayed, we talked about the importance of what we're doing in the community and how we are stewards of Christ, and then we
Hmm.
dispersed with our team leader and we did these community service things once a month. All month it built up to that one first Saturday, and it was great. Um, and that is one way I wish like I said, after I left that duty station, I never saw that replicated again. And that
Let me,
was like, I want to say that was back in '09 to like 2011. I was stationed in Augusta, and it was amazing.
okay. Now, my question is, following it up on your experiences, did you have an after action plan or debriefing? And from the after action plan or debriefing, um, what more could have been added to that program, not only just to feed them once a month, but in relationship to what you did? Did that church have the ability to be able to connect with the local entities such as the homeless shelter or perhaps Feeding America, or being able to sustain them following that encounter and helping them get fully immersed back into the community?
I would say maybe the team leaders did their after action plan. Um, I know I wasn't involved with it because I was just a member. But like I said, each volunteer organization that we did had a team leader in the church. But I think they were involved with like after we got back, like after we finished, everybody met back at the church, turned back in like their vest or their like whatever they took from the church. Because we had vests, we had t-shirts, we had a whole bunch of stuff that but the t-shirts are ours, but we would turn back in the equipment, and the team leaders would stay and debrief, and I think they were in sync with the community organization to find out whatever that need was for the month. It wasn't always the same thing, but it was always like 5 or so volunteer organizations. And I think not putting that onus on the members, but putting it on the team leaders that were, and like I do agree with the pastor when he was saying like in small groups they have to speak one voice. Absolutely. But I think the message can be delivered differently through different vessels. And I think it connects differently to different people. So, him trying to connect with my 18-year-old daughter might be different than a 25-year-old connecting with my 18-year-old daughter. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
some things are just a mute point. So I think finding that sweet spot and ensuring absolutely that it's one voice. But yeah, the onus wasn't on the members, but the team members did do a debrief, not to prolong the answer.
No, very good answer because the acts of practical application. Um, with Pastor with Q, I can certainly say that at one point I served under his leadership, and that they would put together a Feeding America drive. And I remember and recall serving there at his church. And my testimony is that the line was wrapped, and it seemed like all hands on deck literally came out to give out food. And even when the rain was pouring, I mean, it didn't matter. The team itself kept working. So, with that being said, that is my segue to go into Pastor. Pastor, what do you think about Ms. Wilson's answers? Pastor, can you hear me, Q? I don't think
I'm
he's
like,
there. Any,
I'm
yeah.
like, was trying to see how to turn this microphone back on.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
so what was the question?
She indicated that how she felt by serving, and that
Right.
how they came
I heard,
together as ones, and that, you know,
I, I heard her. And I heard your response about what you used to do under
yes, sir.
somebody's leadership.
Yes, sir. So
But
I wanted you to chime in as it relates to how can the what are some of the practical ways that the church can foster intergenerational relationships and collaboration to deepen spiritual growth and community.
um, out of experience, I'll speak. Um, we do some things I think are very helpful and healthy. We kind of call ourselves those out of the box thinkers.
Hmm.
So we may do a family movie, or we may do a movie for teenagers only. We'll have them to, we might even go to a movie. Uh, we do it with men, we do it with women. We do things that people like to do, uh, both in those uh, cultures, women cultures. But what you find is there is no all one size fits all,
Yes, sir.
because there in my women's group there are women with children, women without children, women who are certain ages, women who have already had husbands, women who want husbands, and those women will show you what they do not want. And I don't need to tell you about men. I've had one of the largest active men's ministry, uh, uh, and again, out of the churches that I have researched, studied, been a part of, continue to do so. But
Mhm.
men are hard. Now, children like bounce houses. Children like uh, doing things that children like to do. And children like church when it is communicated in a way that they can understand and appreciate. Because I've had one of the largest, strongest, most powerful children and youth ministries I've ever seen. I think I feel like bragging for a moment to say that you have to have the vision to do some of what we're talking about in these series of questions. It's not
Yes,
the
sir.
church, it is vision. And if I don't have a vision for a multi-generational ministry, you
Yes, sir.
won't see it. I
Mm.
know I know the churches in Georgia. At least I know their work. And I almost asked Ms. Walker which church was it, because ain't a whole lot. See, there is a church on every corner, everywhere. Churches, churches, churches. at least the building. Ministry is what Ms. Wilson was talking about. And it works for a while. But you got to keep people interested. You can't go to the average church and they're giving away toys for Christmas and see that same church doing something in January, February, or March. Not until what? And I'm not talking about your traditional church that has choir number 1 day, choir number 2 day. Those are traditional old, you know hardly find them anymore. So we broke away from choir unions. We broke away from mission societies. We were torn away from youth days. We're torn away. Young adults, that is a tough group. You know why? You got some with children. You got some without children. You got some want to be married. You got some that work. You got some that you can't have a one stop shop.
With that right there, I need to move to the next question if it's okay.
John, I just wanted to answer the question. He asked, what church was
Sure.
it? It was Stevens Creek Church. It's still there in Augusta.
Okay.
And it was amazing because, and I would say transparency was like key when you have something going on like this, because it was like, okay, this is where the money is going. This is what we're doing here. This is how much we're giving in this organization, and this is why. And even my daughter, who at the time she's 18 now, so she was young, but she enjoyed like going and cooking for the homeless with me because it made her more grateful for the things we do have. So it's one thing to be like, you know, to go to church and like pray for people, but it's another thing when you see it in action, and then you're like, baby, be grateful. You know, when she's like, I don't want to eat green beans. It's kids that don't have green beans. Be grateful for what we do have. And
you're one of those. You're one of those. You're one of those unique parents out of 100. Your daughter is one of those unique children out of 1,000. Because and John, you know this, is we had the children and we had the leadership for the children.
Yes, we did.
The children stayed involved, and they stayed even now. Some of them, they grown.
Yes, sir.
They still remember those days when they were connected. And you can't. We got to stop blaming COVID. Before COVID, COVID only revealed. COVID revealed what was real and what was not.
With that saying,
so social distancing. All right, go ahead.
I truly have to move on to the next question, and thank you so much for everyone chiming in. Mr. Garvey, I have this question for you. How can the church support individuals who feel disconnected from their faith community, particularly those who have been marginalized or struggling with crisis of faith after the pandemic? I know you're looking for your button, so let me ask that question again.
Oh, did you mean Brother Garvey or?
Yeah, Brother Garvey.
You said Sister Garvey, so we both
No, I am so sorry. I'm sorry. Brother Garvey. Brother Garvey, what I need now, I need your role here.
All right,
How can the church support individuals who feel disconnected from their community, particularly those who have been marginalized or who are struggling with crisis of faith after the pandemic? What can the church do?
The church can give some grace. I mean, it gets to a point, in my opinion, if you hear some children in the back, I'm in the back trying to make me some meat. Let me take that off the oven. So, in my opinion, when it comes down to it, marginalized individuals in the church, depending on what's going on, that's via technology. We talked about that earlier. That's one way. Give individuals, some individuals, due to the pandemic, has now increased their workload, meaning they have now took on 2 jobs. and their Sunday time to go to church is now being took up by physically being at someone else's job in order to do that. But the church don't offer a online ministry in order for them to hear the sermon and hear their great pastor. So that's one way to get those people in back into the fold. Another
I'm
way to
asking in
get
particular,
say again.
unpack those who are from a particular faith who feel disconnected. What can the and they don't feel like they belong, or they feel like the church is not for them. What could you think can be done to get those people back in the church?
Um, you know, I can only speak for me. I stopped going to church on a serious basis and just started to become more spiritual about it. So, that's just from my opinion. This is from Garvey himself. So, going to different churches, and I've seen my fair share. As a kid, I prayed in churches and I prayed in mosques. So I've been up and down that pendulum of blessings, in my opinion. So, what I've noticed as I travel my churches is that of my different buildings is that all the strict rules about coming to church is one thing. I've been to that church that was mentioned earlier in Augusta when I was stationed there. It is a good church, and I think that church didn't have no real rules about coming. You come as you are. If you want to show up in
Mhm.
tennis shoes, then that's what you want. That's what you wear. If you want to show up in tennis shoes and you want to work coming in your gym clothes, that's just what you wear. And it was expected. And the pastor himself was dressed the same. So that one thing led to the segue of, hey, I don't got to be in my Sunday's best, which I don't quite understand the term. So that small task makes a big impression on individuals because uh, I remember the time when I was younger, you have to get up and you consider it the show. And the show, you get your best tie, your jacket, whatever, and you go. But now it's to the point in life to where people need more flexibility. Like if I want to go to church, I want to be able to go to church and what I want to go and what I want to be, what I'm in, and just go get my blessings and keep going. Because I may have to go to work, you'll know what I got next. And because I got to, because because of how the pastor may present or the church may present itself, individuals may find themselves ostracized because of they may have some other event they want to attend after
Okay.
church, but they are
Now,
forced to do that. Now,
with that being said,
that's one way.
I listen to your way. Now I need to hear Q, Pastor. I need to hear what he has to say.
I say me and Rico gonna talk somewhere. If I have to fly where he is, if I had to do like Elfaz, Bildad, and Zophar did Job, me and Rico gonna meet somewhere real soon. Rico is gonna be one of my best friends. But let me say this to us. The old folk that raised me did a very doggone good job of of teaching me the importance of image, teaching me the importance of reputation, teaching me the importance of self-respect, teaching me the importance of self-esteem. If they messed up, they messed up good, because my Sunday preparation, clothing-wise, was very wise on their part. My attitude preparation for church was to my advantage. And I will every time I turn around recall that old lady down in the basement, cold as it was. And I was the only student in Sunday school because my parents made sure that that's where I would be on Sunday. We're in a new society, you say? We're in a new culture? Okay. So dress any kind of way you want to, come any kind of way you want to, come if you want to, do what you want to, and that you can elect who you want to. And that's what we have turned the church at large into. It is no longer a place of awe and reverence. And when the world shakes your church instead of the church shaping your world, I'll be just like Rico. I've seen them all. I've seen what they could be like.
Mhm.
And no, I don't. Oh, no, I don't advertise doing the horse and the buggy. But I still maintain this reality. Is
With
Jesus
that being,
the same yesterday?
No, can I counter that?
Sure.
hold on, wait. I need y'all to realize we way over my time limit. Now, I will stop the recording and let y'all continue. However, I do need to hear from Sister Wilson if you are able to speak, because I know she's going to an appointment. And with her, after she speaks in, I'm going to do a quick prayer, close the recording out, and we can continue this, or I can, connect the calls via regular phones and we can go from here.
Okay. No, I'm gonna call the airline and see where to fly at. I'm going.
Wait, what's that? Miss
John,
Wilson?
what did you need me to speak on? I'm sorry. I'm at the
That's
dentist's
fine.
office filling out paperwork.
Yes, ma'am. Only thing I was asking, how can the church support individual who feels disconnected from their faith community and have been marginalized through after the pandemic? They're struggling, been marginalized after the pandemic. I want to know, how can you, the church itself, be a beacon of hope to those who feel marginalized and are struggling after we have went through this horrific pandemic of COVID?
I would say continue to be a light in the community and not ostracize them, but love them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? We can't preach one thing and then be like, why you ain't coming to church? Because it could be a lot of different things. So I say meet people where they are and be the example that God would have us to be. And if that means like meeting at a small library or meeting at a library or coffee shop, just to get them out for community prayer, and then be like, we would love to see you back in church when you're ready, right? And not be too pushy, but meeting them on the common ground and trying to see what is going on, because it could be their mom could be sick. It could be different reasons why they're not there. So just trying to meet them at common ground to figure out why there is a disconnect, and then helping bridge that gap in not a pushy way, that where if people are welcomed back into the body of Christ. Um,
Okay, very good answer. That was short, sweet, to the point. You have covered both things. With
John,
that being said, yes, sir.
John, let me
Yes,
just
sir.
say this one last thing here, and I want to say it to those of you who are of a military mind. Can your soldiers, can even you, do anything you want to, dress anywhere you want to, come anytime you want to, leave if you want to, go AWOL if you want to, and there are no repercussions? So what we're trying to blame the church and say about the church, be rational, not irrational. That just like you have rules, Rico, God's got a right to have rules. And those people that raised me, I don't think they did such a terrible job. You know how much I violate what they taught me? Because I'm an out of the box thinker. And I'm like Ms. Walker, if I can meet you at Starbucks, or if I could meet you on the bench in front of Holiday Inn, I do that anyway, John. You already
Mhm.
know. So yeah, that's
Yes.
taking the ministry to minister to people. But there is evangelism, which is going out to reach them, but there's also the building up from the inside. And if you don't have both, I can tell you this, and I won't say another word.
Won't believe that.
Ministry
Yes, sir.
deals with misery
Mm,
and turn misery into ministry. Apart from that, you
I like that.
don't tell me to have YouTube, Facebook, because everybody that uses it. This is why you have to pay attention to analytics. Even myself, I scan every channel I want to scan, but I'm not paying attention to what they're talking about. And
Okay.
there are so many available, already good, powerful preaching, teaching, and some not so much. But there's enough of it to reach whoever want to be reached. I can't take that attitude and say I'm gonna leave it up to social media or virtual platforms, because that's not my calling. Yes,
Yes,
I
sir.
have Facebook. Yes, I have YouTube. Yes, I have virtual platforms. Yes, I have my own website. And no, that's not what builds our congregation. It's that
Now,
touch and vision. Okay.
I do need to close down this video because I have really exceeded my limit, so I do have to go in and cut some. I first want to say thank you, everyone who chimed in, who stayed in. Since I'm recording, I do need to close out. I'm with a prayer. I did not open with a prayer, but I will close out with a prayer. And then after I stop the recording, I can keep everyone on. So just give me a minute to close out and to stop the recording. Our Father and our God, come to you now in the name of Jesus. Lord, I lift you up today, for this is the day that you have made, and we shall all rejoice in this day. Lord, I thank you for a healthy discussion amongst every panelist that was on. Lord, I pray now that we take something that we can glean from one another, and that you may be glorified in our gleaning, that you may be able to be heard through our substance. Lord, I thank you right now for this opportunity to be your servant and to be able to be used as your vessel. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.